The storm had been creeping across the ridge all afternoon, but it hit hard the moment I stepped outside to gather the last of my drying herbs. A sharp wind slapped rain sideways, rattling the metal sheets on my cabin roof like restless spirits. I cursed under my breath, snatching the bundle before it flew away. Nights like this were usually quiet. Wolves took shelter, hunters stayed home, and I could enjoy my solitude without anyone reminding me I didn't belong to a pack anymore. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel, like it, spread the word, and tell us where you're watching from. Then a sound sliced through the rain. Not a branch, not thunder. A low, guttural wheeze, wolf, male, and close. Too close, I froze. My heartbeat didn't spike, but it changed rhythm, ready for trouble before my mind caught up. I scanned the trees, the downpour turning everything into blurred shapes. The scent hit next. Iron, pine, and something darker, burnt, almost metallic. Blood, wolf blood. Seriously, I muttered. This is what tonight's gonna be. Another wheeze answered me. I darted forward before I could talk myself out of it. Whoever it was, they were right at the tree line. Tall grass swayed, and then a massive form slumped into view. A wolf bigger than any patrol wolf I'd ever treated crashed onto his side, mud splashing around his body. His fur was black, not simply dark, black like moonless sky, and matted with streaks of crimson. "Hey, stay with me," I said, kneeling beside him. My voice came out steadier than I felt. His eyes cracked open, and for a heartbeat I forgot how to breathe. They weren't just gold, they burned. Wild, intelligent, and furious at the pain he was barely holding back. He tried to lift his head, didn't make it. A growl rumbled in his chest, too weak to threaten me, too stubborn to stop. "Don't bite me," I warned, slipping my hands under his shoulder anyway. "I really don't have time for that." He didn't bite, but he tried. The moment my palms touched his burning skin, a jolt ran through him. Not electricity, something deeper, like instinct snapping taut. His eyes widened, then narrowed as if he recognized something he shouldn't. No, impossible. There was no way a rogue would focus Arya. He was heavy, far heavier than any wounded wolf I'd dragged before, but adrenaline made me reckless. Step by step, I got him to the cabin, kicking the door shut behind us. The storm's howl dulled, replaced by the wet thud of his body on the wooden floor. He struggled to shift. I caught the signs, tremors, jaw tightening, muscles pulling in wrong directions, but something blocked the transition. I reached for my satchel, fingers brushing the worn leather out of habit. "Stop trying to shift," I ordered. "You'll rip yourself apart like this." He ignored me. Wolves always did when they were hurt. A strangled sound left his throat, half growl, half human agony. His claws dug into the floorboards. I dropped to my knees beside him, grabbing a shallow metal bowl and the herbs I'd saved from the rain. His breathing stuttered. I leaned close. "Hey, look at me." He did, slowly, deliberately. Those burning eyes locked on mine as if anchoring himself. "Good, stay awake." "I'm not going to turn you in," I whispered, grinding herbs with the back of a spoon. "But you need to give me something to work with." No response, not even a twitch. I pressed a damp cloth to a wound along his ribs. His entire body jerked, a violent spasm that nearly knocked me off balance. His eyes flickered, gold giving way to a deeper, almost molten shade. His wolf was trying to speak, and for a split second I heard it. "Don't let them find me." My breath hitched not from fear, but from the raw desperation buried in those words. He wasn't just wounded, he was hunted, and whoever wanted him dead was getting closer. The moment his wolf's voice faded, the air in the cabin felt too tight, like the storm outside had slipped through the cracks and settled on my chest. Wolves didn't just project their thoughts to strangers. Not unless something dangerous was snapping at their heels. I set the bowl aside and leaned in to inspect the wound along his ribs. Deep. Too clean. Not claws, something sharper. Steel. No, the edges were uneven, shimmering with faint residue. My stomach twisted. Rune burn. Someone had used marked restraints on him. "Who did this to you?" I asked, not expecting an answer. His gaze drifted, unfocused, like he was fighting sleep or memory. Maybe both. I could have pushed, but I wasn't an alpha and had no desire to act like one. Instead, I grabbed a jar of salve, popped the lid, and let the medicated scent fill the room, cool mint and crushed pine bark. He flinched at the smell alone. "Relax. This isn't going to hurt as much as what you've already been through." Dipped my fingers into the paste. His growl rumbled low, not warning, more instinct, like his wolf hated being vulnerable. The sound vibrated through the floorboards, through my hands, through me. I steadied myself and pressed the salve to his wound. His reaction was immediate. His hand, now human, shot out, gripping my wrist, not bruising tight, just enough to halt my movement. His breath hitched, controlled but strained. His voice followed, rough and jagged around the edges. "Don't touch that." I met his eyes. For a moment, the storm outside was nothing. His fear wasn't loud, but it lived in the small tremor of his fingers and the way his throat worked as he swallowed back pain. "I have to," I said quietly. "If I don't, whatever they used on you will keep eating into the flesh." His fingers loosened. Slowly, carefully, he pulled his hand away. The salve did its job, easing the worst of the burn. His muscles unclenched little by little, the rigid tension in his frame melting into exhaustion. He watched every move I made, though hyper-aware, like he expected me to shift from healer to threat at any second. "Where's your pack?" I asked, wiping the blood from his side. A shadow flickered across his features. "Gone." That one word carried weight. Not grief, something heavier, regret, anger, I couldn't place it. "Gone as in," I started. He shook his head once. "Final, okay, boundary noted." The rain hammered harder, rattling the windows. Underneath the storm, another sound crept in, a distant howl, faint but distinct. Pack wolves, not mine, certainly not his. My pulse kicked. "They're nearby." His eyes sharpened instantly, wolf instincts roaring to life. Even injured, he pushed up on one elbow, scanning the room as though mapping escape routes. "You can't move," I snapped. His jaw tightened, but he sank back down, barely. The howls grew louder, scouts, searching. My mind raced through the possibilities. If they caught him here, the Bloodpine Patrol didn't need evidence, just suspicion. And a wounded rogue in my cabin was more than enough. I hurried across the room, shoved aside a wooden crate, and lifted the panel underneath. The hidden space wasn't large, but it was reinforced with old healer runes, sound dampening, scent masking. My mentor had carved them in years ago. "Get in." He stared at the narrow opening, then at me, disbelief flickering through his expression. "Why help me?" I didn't have time to unpack that question. "Because someone already hurt you enough." He hesitated. For a split second, his eyes softened, not trusting, but recognizing something in me he didn't expect. Then he dragged himself toward the opening with brutal determination. I helped lower him inside. His breathing turned uneven, but he didn't make a sound. I slid the panel shut just as a fist slammed against my door. The pounding on my door rattled the hinges, sending a tremor through the whole cabin. I forced a steady breath, wiped my hands on my pants, and walked toward it like I didn't have a hunted, half-dead wolf hidden under my floorboards. The second knock wasn't a knock at all. It was a command. "Open up." Perfect. Patrol wolves. And judging by the impatience in that voice, definitely not the friendly kind. I cracked the door just enough to block their view inside. Rain blew in behind them, soaking the threshold. 3 wolves stood on my porch in human form, wearing dark patrol jackets marked with the Bloodpine crest. The one in front, Taryn, looked me up and down like he expected to find guilt on my face. "Evening," I said, leaning against the doorframe as if my heart wasn't doing wild gymnastics. "Arya," Taryn replied, shoving his wet hair back. "We're tracking someone. A rogue male crossed into our sector, big one." "Good luck with that," I answered. "Storm like this, tracks are gone." His nostrils flared. He sniffed past me, scanning the air for unfamiliar scent. The runes under my floor hummed faintly, masking the wounded wolf's presence. Thank the spirits my mentor had been paranoid. Taryn stepped forward. "We need to check your cabin." "Why?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. "Procedure." "Since when does procedure involve barging into civilian homes without a warrant from the council?" He blinked. Patrol wolves hated when I reminded them I wasn't pack property. My mother had raised me outside the ranks, outside their authority, and they still weren't over it. Taryn pushed again. "He's dangerous." "He's also not here." Behind him, another patrol wolf shifted his stance, impatience rolling off him. "We don't have time for this. Move." My jaw flexed, but I stepped aside, letting them enter. If I resisted too much, suspicion would spike, and I couldn't risk them tearing up floorboards. They fanned out through the cabin. One checked the storage room. Another kicked at a basket of herbs like it offended him. Taryn stalked toward my work table, fingers brushing dried flowers jars, the mortar I'd used minutes earlier. His hand hovered above the bowl of crushed salve. I moved without thinking. "Don't touch that, it's medicine." He raised a brow. "You're jumpy." "It's late, and you're dripping rain all over my floor." He smirked, arrogant. The type who believed rank made him untouchable. His eyes skimmed the walls, the shelves, the tools. "You live alone out here." "You know I do." "Dangerous place for someone without a pack." "I get by," he hummed, unconvinced. Then his expression sharpened, like he picked up something fleeting, an echo of scent maybe. My lungs locked. I prayed the runes held. Taryn stepped toward the center of the cabin, boots just inches above the hidden panel. I forced my posture to stay loose, nonchalant, even though tension climbed my spine like ice water. He looked down. Did you fix your floor? No. Huh. Brows dipped. Sounded hollow. My pulse stumbled. I shrugged. Storm warps the board sometimes. He crouched. His hand brushed the wood. No, no, no. A howl cut through the storm outside, sharp, urgent. One of the other patrol wolves called out, Taryn, we found tracks by the eastern ridge. He straightened instantly, cursing. Stay alert, he warned me. If you see him, notify us immediately. Of course. They filed out, disappearing into the sheets of rain. I locked the door the second they vanished. Only then did my breath spill out all at once. I waited a full minute before kneeling beside the hidden panel. They're gone, I whispered. Silence. I lifted the board. His eyes glowed from the darkness, tired, fierce, and watching me like I'd just stepped between him and a firing squad. You should have let them take me, he rasped. No, I answered. I really shouldn't have. Lightning cracked outside, and with it, a truth settled in my bones. Whatever I'd stepped into wasn't ending anytime soon. He didn't climb out of the hiding space right away. For a moment, he just stared at me from the shadows beneath the floorboards, chest rising in uneven, rough pulls. The faint runes carved along the wooden beams cast a dull glow across his face, highlighting the exhaustion he was trying and failing to mask. I crouched beside the opening. You can come up now. His voice, low and graveled, drifted upward. They would have torn me apart. You know that, right? I figured, I murmured, offering an arm. He didn't take it at first. Pride, probably, or caution. Then the tremor in his shoulders betrayed him, and he reached up, grasping my forearm with surprising gentleness for someone built like a war-sculpted boulder. The weight of him nearly pulled me forward, but I braced myself and helped lift him from the space. Once he was seated on the floor, leaning back against the wall, he drew a steadying breath as if each inhale cost something. His form wasn't fully human, not fully wolf either. Muscles twitched in ways that didn't belong to a man in one shape. His skin rippled once, like the wolf under his surface was pacing. You're stuck between shifts, I said, grabbing a linen cloth to wipe the dirt from his hands. That's not normal. It's deliberate. He winced as he adjusted himself. Rune's snare binds the wolf and the man separately, pulls them in different directions. Who uses those? I asked. His gaze flicked up, sharp despite the pain. Hunters. Or someone with access to old council stockpiles. A chill slid across my arms. Council stockpiles haven't been touched in years. Then someone decided to change that. He didn't elaborate, and pushing him right now felt pointless. Instead, I moved to gather fresh herbs and oils. As I worked, the cabin filled with the crisp scent of crushed spruce needles and heated resin. He watched every motion like he was measuring whether I was a threat. I need to clean your back wound, I said softly. Turn a little, a low grunt, but he shifted. The gash across his shoulder blade was worse than the one on his ribs, angry, swollen, and marked with faint glowing residue. Not ordinary magic. Ancient, almost forbidden. I hovered my fingers above it without touching. How did you survive this? His laugh was short, humorless. I didn't plan to. The forest decided otherwise. He had a way of speaking like every word was pulled from somewhere deep, a place layered with secrets. It made me curious in ways I didn't want to admit. As I pressed the salve into the wound, his muscles flinched. He didn't make a sound, but tension rippled down his spine. I could feel the way he forced himself to stay still, more discipline than strength. Your name, I said, keeping my tone light. Unless you want me to keep calling you the wolf who almost died on my doorstep. His head tilted. Kai, just Kai, no pack name, no rank. That alone told me more than any backstory would. Arya, I replied. I know. I paused mid-motion. How? He opened his eyes that had dimmed from molten gold to something steadier but still alert. You're sent. I've passed by this territory before. That should have unnerved me. Somehow it didn't. Before I could respond, he stiffened, not from pain this time, from instinct. His gaze snapped to the door. My ears caught it a heartbeat later, branches snapping, footsteps shifting weight deliberately, someone trying to move quietly but failing. Not the storm, not the patrol. Someone else was circling my cabin. Kai's voice dropped to a rumble. They're not done looking for me. The hair along my arms lifted. Not good at all. Kenji pushed the garage door open and stepped inside, dripping rain everywhere, but Aya instantly noticed something different about him. He wasn't just tired, he looked shaken. She paused mid-stir with the little pot of rice they were trying to stretch for dinner. Nick-san, what happened? She whispered, her voice tiny but sharp. Kenji didn't answer at first. He just peeled off his soaked jacket and stared at the floor like he was replaying something over and over in his head. Aya knew that look. The world had thrown another problem at them. He finally lifted his eyes, faintly red from the cold and exhaustion. Aya, the man who came yesterday, he wasn't just rich. He knew things about me, about us. Aya's heart skipped hard. She placed the lid back on the pot slowly, scared of what else Kenji had discovered. The storm outside cracked again, louder this time, like the night itself was listening. Kenji leaned against the metal cabinet, his breath uneven. He said someone has been watching me, checking my work, tracking everything I fix. He said they want me for something. Aya's face went pale. Want you for what? But Kenji didn't know, and that terrified him most. The garage suddenly felt too small, the shadows too tight. Kenji wrapped his arms around himself, like trying to hold his thoughts together. He offered money, way more than we've ever had, but Aya, it didn't feel like an offer. It felt like a warning. Aya stepped closer, clutching his sleeve with her small hand, grounding him. She wasn't scared of storms. She was scared of secrets, especially the kind that followed them. Are we in danger? She whispered. Kenji hesitated, and his silence was louder than any answer. He finally forced himself to speak, his voice low. He said our life is about to change whether we want it to or not. Aya bit her lip, her eyes glossy. She'd always known Kenji was special, smarter than the small town, smarter than the garage. But strangers didn't come at night for angels, they came for weapons, for people they could use. Kenji could feel it too. Something about last night wasn't coincidence. A distant rumble from the road made both of them turn. Headlights flashed under the garage door's edges. Kenji froze. Aya grabbed his hand. And in that split second, both knew the storm wasn't outside anymore. It had already stepped into their lives. The headlights cut through the garage like knives, reflecting off greasy tools and puddles on the concrete floor. Kenji's grip on Aya's hand tightened, his knuckles white. The sound of tires crunching on gravel made every hair on his arms stand on end. Someone was coming, and it wasn't a visitor. A shadow moved outside, big, human-shaped but not just human. Kenji froze, instinct screaming that the stranger wasn't ordinary. Aya's small voice trembled. "Nice-san, who is it?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. The air thickened with tension, and even the storm seemed to pause, waiting. Kenji glanced at the back exit. It was too risky. They couldn't run without being seen. He swallowed, forcing calm he didn't feel. "Stay close," he whispered, dragging her toward the old workbench. He crouched low, shoving a pile of rags over the floor hatch they used for supplies. Aya's eyes widened. "Kenji, trust me," he muttered, pressing her against the wall. His heart raced like a drum, but his mind had to stay sharper than any storm. Footsteps echoed in the garage, deliberate, slow. The stranger paused, sniffing the air. Kenji caught the faint metallic scent, sharp like cold steel, and the faint trace of something else, money, authority. He couldn't place it, but it made his stomach twist. The stranger's voice, low and commanding, cut through the room. "Kenji Sato, we know you're in there." Aya pressed against him, holding her breath. Kenji's pulse thudded painfully against his ribs. How had they found them so fast? Kenji pulled Aya behind a stack of crates, peering out through a narrow gap. The figure was massive, wearing a dark coat slick with rain. Rain ran down the sides of his face, making it hard to see his eyes, but Kenji could feel the gaze drilling into him like a knife. "You can't hide forever," the man said. Each word carried weight, a promise and a threat all in one. Aya whimpered, and Kenji brushed her hair back. "It's okay," he lied, though his wolf, his instincts wanted to lunge and strike, protect, kill if needed. The stranger moved closer. The scrape of boots against wet concrete echoed in the tiny garage. Kenji had to think fast. He reached into his pocket, fingertips brushing the wrench he'd grabbed earlier. Not to fight, to threaten, to buy time. "Aya, remember what I taught you," he whispered. "Stay behind me. Quiet." Aya nodded, swallowing hard, courage blooming in her small chest. The man stopped, sniffed again, and let out a low chuckle. "Clever," he said, "but clever isn't enough." The words chilled Kenji's blood. He could feel the power behind them, the calculation. This was more than a stranger. This was someone who knew exactly how to corner him. A gust of wind slammed the garage door, rattling everything inside. Kenji's wolf growled low in his chest, heat rising in his veins, every sense screaming danger. He planted his feet, wrench in hand, ready to act, ready to fight, ready to protect Aya at any cost. The stranger's silhouette shifted, blocking the only exit. Kenji's breath hitched. One wrong move and a thunderclap shook the roof. The stranger flinched, just enough. Kenji's mind clicked. "Now," he whispered. He grabbed Aya, darting for the hidden hatch, sliding her inside. She stumbled, but he caught her just in time. The stranger lunged forward, but the hatch slammed shut before he could react. Silence fell, heavy and wet, broken only by the storm and the stranger's furious shouts above the floorboards. Kenji pressed his forehead to Aya's, whispering, "We're not safe yet, but we survived this one." And somewhere deep in the shadows, he could feel it. Something alive, fierce, waiting. Something that wasn't human, something tied to him and Aya in ways he didn't yet understand. The storm outside didn't feel like rain anymore. It felt like a warning. By the time dawn clawed its way over the ridge, the storm had burned itself out, leaving the garage slick with rainwater and the scent of wet pine drifting through the cracked windows. Kenji sat on the floor hatch, knees drawn up, Aya pressed against his side. Her small fingers clung to his sleeve, still trembling from the night's chaos. "I thought they were going to take us," she murmured. Her voice was almost lost beneath the creak of the settling roof, but it hit him like a stone. "They didn't," he replied, brushing her damp hair back. "For now." His wolf stirred beneath his skin, a low hum of tension that refused to quiet. His senses were still tuned to every movement, every shadow beyond the garage walls. The patrol hadn't gone far. They would circle back. They always did. Aya tilted her head. Why are they after you?" Kenji exhaled sharply, forcing calm he didn't feel. "Because I've been poking around where I shouldn't. Fixing machines, yes, but also noticing things that aren't meant to be seen." He glanced toward the floor hatch, where Kai, his wolf companion, barely restrained, rested quietly under the makeshift cover of blankets and herbs. The hybrid pulse beneath the wood reminded him that he wasn't dealing with ordinary danger. Not anymore. A soft growl rumbled under the floorboards. Kai shifted slightly, testing the bounds of the binding runes Kenji had inherited from his mentor. Those runes had been carved long before Kenji was born, designed to protect, to hide, to keep the unprepared safe from the wrong kind of eyes. But they weren't infallible. Kai's senses were sharper than any human's. Even restrained, he could smell the faint stir of approaching hunters, the subtle shifts in the forest, the scent of desperation clinging to Kenji and Aya. Kenji closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. The world felt impossibly heavy. Every decision, every move would have consequences far beyond their little garage. And the storm had drawn attention. People who didn't belong here, who weren't human, were circling, watching, waiting. Aya broke the silence, her voice small but insistent. "Nick-san, can they hurt Kai?" Kenji's chest tightened. He couldn't answer honestly. Not yet. Kai was bound, wounded, caught between man and wolf, and every second outside the hatch was a risk. He swallowed, forcing the words out in a controlled whisper. "He can handle himself, but we have to be careful. One wrong step and the storm outside won't be the worst of it." A sudden creak from the garage door made them both jump. Kenji grabbed a wrench from the workbench, holding it loosely but ready. Aya pressed herself into his side, eyes wide. The figure outside was tall, dripping rain, boots heavy against the wet floor. Not Taryn, not the patrol, someone else entirely. The man's voice carried through the thin wood. "Kenji Sato, you can't hide forever." Kenji's wolf snarled, low and threatening. He felt the hair along his arms rise involuntarily. This voice, it carried authority, experience, and something darker. A hunter. Not just a hunter, but someone who could track him and Kai across the ridge without leaving a trace. Kenji pressed Aya behind him, heart hammering. "Stay quiet. Do exactly what I tell you." The stranger's footsteps paused at the threshold. Rainwater dripped from the brim of a wide hat, tracing lines down his coat. "I'm not here to hurt the girl," he said. "Not yet, but the wolf, that one belongs to me." Kenji's chest tightened. This wasn't a simple threat. This was a claim. And Kai, though restrained and wounded, stirred beneath the floorboards as if he understood every word. Kenji's grip on the wrench hardened. He knew then that the calm after the storm was a lie. The real battle, the one that would decide whether they survived, was just beginning. The shadow outside shifted, stepping closer. And Kenji felt it in his bones. Nothing would ever be the same. Kenji's knuckles ached from gripping the wrench, but he couldn't let go. Every instinct screamed at him. Protect, shield, survive. Aya clung to his side, her small body trembling, but she didn't whimper. Not yet. That silence was almost worse. The kind that made the mind imagine horrors in every shadow. The stranger's silhouette lingered at the garage door, his presence heavy and deliberate. Rain ran down his coat, leaving streaks of mud and water across the floor. His voice came again, calm but cutting. "I've been tracking this wolf longer than you've been alive. I know its scent, its habits, its weaknesses, and you—" His eyes flicked toward Kenji. "You made a mistake stepping in." Kenji's jaw tightened. He had to stay focused, had to stay one step ahead. "Mistake," he said, voice steady even though adrenaline thudded like a drum in his chest. "You're the one standing in my garage in the middle of a storm." A smirk crossed the man's face, a dangerous curve that didn't reach his eyes. I don't take unnecessary risks. He stepped closer, boots squelching against the wet concrete. Kenji could hear the faint scrape of metal under the soles, a hidden blade, a tracker. He couldn't see, couldn't be sure, and that uncertainty clawed at him. Beneath the floorboards, Kai shifted again, the restrained wolf instinct stirring. Kenji felt the vibration through the wood, a tremor of power pressing against the bindings. He whispered almost to himself, "Hold just a little longer." Aya tightened her grip on his arm. "Nick-san, he's dangerous." "I know," Kenji whispered back, voice low, eyes never leaving the stranger. "But we have to outsmart him." The man crouched slightly, gaze scanning the garage, landing on the floor hatch, his lips curled. "I smell it, the wolf isn't far." His voice carried amusement now, like he was savoring the challenge. "He's clever and wounded. Perfect." Kenji's stomach twisted. Perfect for him to be caught, perfect for the stranger to claim, perfect for disaster. He couldn't let that happen, not to Kai, not to Aya. He scanned the room, calculating, heart racing, mind sharp. Then a flash of lightning illuminated the stranger's face fully. Kenji noticed the faint scar along his jaw, the gold glint in his eyes that wasn't human. It was wolfed, controlled, disciplined. A hunter, a rogue, something else entirely. One wrong move and they'd be trapped. The stranger leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper. "I can wait, but time favors me. Soon your little secret will cost you everything." Kenji's wolf stirred in response, growling low in his chest. He felt it itching at the bindings beneath the floorboards, testing, struggling. Kai could sense the threat, could sense the predator outside. Kenji swallowed, trying to steady his own pulse. Then a sharp snap from the ceiling caught all three of their attention. Dust fell from the beams. The stranger flinched just slightly. Kenji seized the moment, grabbing Aya's hand and pulling her toward the rear exit, the one partially shielded by old tarps and crates. "Now!" he hissed. Aya obeyed without question, stepping lightly beside him, heart hammering but feet steady. Before they could reach it, the stranger straightened, voice loud enough to shake the air. "You think you can hide from me?" Kenji froze, eyes locked on the door. He could feel Kai beneath him, coiled and ready, waiting for a signal. One move, one shift, and they'd all be exposed. The rain had stopped outside. The world felt eerily still. And Kenji realized they weren't just running from a hunter. They were running from fate itself. Kenji froze, every muscle taut, as the stranger's voice reverberated through the garage. It carried weight, control, and the subtle threat of inevitability. Behind him, Aya's small hand trembled in his grip, but she didn't pull away. Her trust, unspoken yet unyielding, burned like a beacon in the dim light. The stranger stepped closer, boots wet and heavy against the concrete, leaving streaks of mud like trails of warning. Kenji's eyes flicked to the floor hatch. Kai was restless beneath the runes, claws scraping softly against wood as if testing the walls of his cage. The wolf knew danger when it smelled it, and Kai could feel the predator closing in even before the man moved. "You've got guts, Sato," the stranger said, leaning just enough to reveal his eyes fully. Golden, sharp, predatory, not human, not fully. "But guts won't save you." Kenji swallowed, forcing his jaw to stay loose. Every instinct screamed, protect, hide, fight. The man wasn't bluffing. Every fiber of his being radiated lethal intent. Aya whispered, barely audible, "Nick-san." "What do we do?" Kenji crouched low, pressing her behind a stack of crates, shielding her with his body. His mind raced. He needed a distraction, something to buy them time. Something to let Kai, trapped beneath, shift safely. A sudden clang from the tool bench he had nudged a wrench earlier echoed through the garage. The stranger's head snapped toward it, just enough distraction. Kenji seized the moment. "Go!" he hissed. Aya darted for the rear exit, small feet sliding over the wet floor. Kenji followed, wrench raised defensively. The stranger lunged fast, but Kenji pivoted, leading him toward a stack of crates. The man's momentum carried him slightly past, forcing him to adjust mid-step. Underneath the floorboards, Kai trembled violently. His wolf's voice seeped through in low, urgent pulses. Now, Kenji's pulse spiked. He slammed the hatch open and pressed Aya inside, the wolf's raw energy thrumming beneath the wood. Kai exploded upward in a blur of fur and gold eyes, muscles rippling as the bindings cracked and shattered. The stranger froze for a split second. That was all Kai needed. A blur of black fur and golden fire launched from the hatch, teeth bared, claws scraping against wood. The predator instinct screamed through him. Kenji grabbed Aya, dragging her to the side as Kai collided with the stranger. Growls rolled through the air, low, primal, shaking dust from the beams above. The stranger staggered but recovered quickly, shifting fluidly, revealing wolf traits Kenji hadn't noticed before. This wasn't an ordinary hunter. Kai snarled, circling, eyes locked on the stranger, muscles coiling, ready to strike again. The predator's growl met his, a challenge issued and accepted. Kenji's heart pounded, not just from fear but from awe. He'd never seen Kai so alive, so untamed, so completely wolf. And yet in that ferocity there was a connection. He understood in a visceral way that this fight wasn't just survival, it was Kai staking his claim. The stranger's eyes flicked to Kenji, then Aya, then back to Kai. "So he's bonded," he said, voice tight with tension. "Interesting." Kai lunged, snapping the air inches from the stranger's face. The man staggered back, fangs glinting, claws slashing at empty space, assessing strength and limits. Kenji exhaled sharply, gripping Aya's hand. The storm outside had passed, but inside a new storm raged. Wolves, men, and fate colliding in the small garage. For a moment everything froze. Kai's low growl, the stranger's poised stance, Aya's wide eyes. And Kenji realized that the balance had shifted. Whoever the stranger was, whoever sent him, they had underestimated one thing. Kai was more than a wolf. He was a protector, a force that couldn't be chained. And now they were awake. Dawn had barely brushed the sky when Kenji finally lowered Aya from the makeshift barricade. Kai padded silently beside them, still alert, ears twitching at every shadow, eyes scanning for threats the human mind couldn't perceive. The storm had passed, but the forest around the garage held a new weight, a quiet, tense watchfulness, as though the trees themselves whispered warnings. Kenji crouched to inspect Kai's fur, noticing faint scratches along his flank from the struggle last night. Not deep, but enough to sting. Kai growled low, shifting slightly as if testing his freedom. The wolfed man stretched, muscles rippling beneath dark fur, then paused, scenting the wind. Kenji followed his gaze. The patrol had circled the ridge again, just beyond the tree line, their movements subtle but deliberate. "Do they know he's free?" Aya asked, voice small, pulling at his sleeve. Kenji shook his head. "Not yet, but they'll find out soon, and when they do, it won't be good." He glanced at Kai, who was now fully wolfed, towering and magnificent, golden eyes sharp and calculating. Something about the hybrid's presence made the morning air vibrate with raw energy. Even the birds seemed cautious, staying just out of reach, silent in their observation. Kenji's mind raced. Last night had proven two things. The stranger wasn't alone, and Kai's abilities were far beyond what he had ever imagined. The wolf wasn't just a fighter. He could anticipate moves, sense danger, even read intention in the way a predator reads a heartbeat. Kenji felt a shiver of awe and fear. This creature was more than a companion. He was a weapon, a guardian, and maybe something else entirely. Aya tugged at his hand again. "Nice-san, what now?" Kenji exhaled sharply, brushing a strand of wet hair from his face. "Now we survive the morning. Then we figure out who sent him and why." Kai shifted, patting a circle around them, sniffing the edges of the garage and the surrounding woods. Kenji could feel the wolf's awareness, his vigilance. Every movement, every scent carried information. Whoever had sent that stranger would need to consider Kai's senses now. They'd underestimated him, underestimated them. That was their edge. A distant howl rolled through the ridge. Not patrol wolves, not the stranger, something else, another pack or a scout. Kenji's pulse quickened. The world outside the garage wasn't just dangerous. It was alive, layered, and hunting. He knelt beside Aya again, drawing her close. "You have to stay behind Kai and me. Do exactly as I say. Understand?" She nodded, eyes wide but determined. "I understand, Nice-san." Kenji looked at Kai, then back at the forest. The morning sun tried to pierce the mist, but it did little to lift the tension. Every step outside, every breath carried risk, but staying inside wasn't an option. The patrol would return. The stranger would regroup. And the answers they needed, the truth about why Kai had been hunted, wouldn't reveal themselves behind closed doors. Kenji's fingers tightened around the strap of his backpack. Tools, supplies, and a small satchel of herbs and runes from his mentor were packed. Every item was chosen carefully. Every ounce of weight could mean life or death. Kai nudged him, golden eyes locked on the tree line. That single movement, wolfed and commanding, was all Kenji needed to understand. The next move belonged to them, and whatever waited in the woods wasn't going to wait politely. With Aya holding his hand and Kai leading the way, Kenji stepped outside. The forest held its breath. The forest was wet and pungent with the storm's aftermath. Pine needles clung to Kenji's boots, and the soil beneath him squelched with every step. Kai moved ahead, silent, each pawfall deliberate, tail low but alert. Aya stayed close, gripping Kenji's hand, her small fingers trembling not from fear but from anticipation. She could sense the tension, the unspoken dangers threading through the woods. Kenji scanned the tree line, noticing subtle shifts in the shadows, branches bending too evenly, a disturbance in the undergrowth. The stranger from the garage had allies. He could feel it in the rhythm of the forest, the way the wind carried scent, the sudden hush of birds. Someone was stalking them, watching, testing the edges of their awareness. Kai paused mid-step, ears twitching, nostrils flaring. His eyes, molten gold and unnervingly bright, scanned left and right, tracing invisible paths of scent. Kenji crouched slightly, instinctively lowering Aya. "Something's close," he murmured. A twig snapped sharply behind them. Aya flinched. Kenji whirled, wrench raised defensively, but Kai was already there, a blur of black fur and gold eyes. He growled, low and vibrating through the ground, a warning to whatever was approaching. From the shadows emerged a figure, not human in form, but shifting between man and wolf in a fluid, dangerous motion. His golden eyes mirrored Kai's, but there was a cruel sharpness to them. A rival, a hunter, or something worse. Kenji stepped in front of Aya, pressing his hand to the wolf's flank to calm him. "Stay," he whispered. "Let me handle this." The figure's voice cut through the forest, smooth and mocking. "You thought hiding would save you? The wolf beneath the floorboards was mine first. You stole him." Kai's growl deepened, resonating through the woods, warning the interloper. Kenji could feel the primal tension, the fight or flight instinct vibrating from the wolf beneath him. The stranger advanced slowly, each step measured, claws flexing against boots, fangs catching the faint morning light. Kenji's mind raced. He had no magic, no weapon against a fully wolfed predator, but he had Kai, and the bond between them pulsed with unspoken energy. The wolf sensed his fear, his caution, and trusted him completely. That was the advantage. That, and the fact the stranger underestimated the human protecting the wolf. "Back off," Kenji said, voice firm but steady. "You're not taking him." The stranger laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Bold for a man without power," he taunted. "But this isn't about you, it's about the wolf, and I always get what I want." Kai growled, stepping between Kenji and the intruder, fur bristling, eyes glowing brighter. The air around them seemed to shimmer, charged with raw energy. Even the leaves trembled as if recognizing the power in Kai's presence. Kenji's grip on Aya tightened. "We're not yours. Never." The rival paused, studying them, assessing the bond, the unspoken connection between man and wolf. He tilted his head, a predator calculating risk. "Interesting," he said softly. "Perhaps I underestimated him and you." A sudden gust of wind stirred the trees, carrying the scent of more movement, other hunters, other eyes watching. Kenji's stomach twisted. They were outnumbered, outmatched, but he refused to falter. Kai stepped forward, low growl vibrating from chest to ground, ready to defend, to fight, to claim. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Kenji drew in a deep, controlled breath. Whatever came next, there would be no turning back. The first move had to be theirs. The rival moved with lethal grace, shifting fluidly between human and wolf. Each step was calculated, every motion designed to intimidate, to test. Kai's low growl echoed through the misty forest, vibrating against tree trunks and wet underbrush. Kenji's fingers tightened on Aya's hand, her small, trembling grip grounding him as adrenaline surged. "You think your bond will save you?" the rival taunted, his voice smooth and cruel. "I've hunted wolves stronger than this one, and I always claim my prize." Kai bristled, fur standing on end. The air around him shimmered with raw, restrained power. Kenji felt it pulse beneath his fingertips, muscle and instinct coiled, ready to strike. He couldn't let Aya see the tremor of fear that threatened to break him. Not now. Aya's voice, tiny but unwavering, reached him. "San, we can't let him take Kai." Kenji swallowed, nodding, feeling the surge of protectiveness flare. "I know." The rival lunged suddenly, wolf form snapping forward with claws extended. Kai responded instantly, a blur of black and gold, intercepting him mid-leap. The collision sent both crashing into the damp earth, leaves and mud spraying outward. Kenji's pulse hammered in his chest, but he kept Aya pressed behind a tree, out of harm's reach. Kai snarled, teeth flashing, eyes glowing like molten gold. The rival twisted, claws scraping against bark, teeth snapping dangerously close. It was fast, precise, a deadly dance where one mistake meant injury or death. Kenji's stomach clenched. This wasn't a fight he could join with tools or human strength. This was instinct, raw power, and years of training buried deep in the wolf's bones. The rival hissed, snapping at Kai, forcing him to backflip, landing with tense, controlled grace. "Clever," he muttered, wiping blood from his jaw. "But not enough." Kenji took a cautious step forward, eyes scanning for leverage, any advantage. His mind darted to the herbs and salves from the garage, the makeshift traps he'd once used to catch rodents. Could he improvise, distract, protect? A sudden rustle behind the rival caught both wolves' attention. Another scout or patrol approaching from the ridge. Kenji cursed under his breath. They had to move now. "Kai!" he hissed, barely audible, fingers brushing against the wolf's flank. "Go, pull them back, protect Aya." Kai snapped his head, acknowledging the command. With a powerful push, he launched the rival backward just long enough for Kenji to grab Aya and sprint toward a narrow trail between two moss-covered boulders. Mud squelched beneath their feet. Rainwater dripped from leaves onto their heads. The rival roared in frustration, then bounded after them, claws scraping the forest floor, eyes locked on the moving pair. Kenji's chest burned. "Keep up, Aya," he urged, twisting through branches and roots, adrenaline blurring pain and fatigue. Aya stumbled once, but Kenji caught her arm. "Not yet, almost there." Kai's growl thundered behind them, a warning and a shield. The rival snarled, lunging again, but the wolf intercepted, muscles rippling, fangs snapping dangerously close. Kenji exhaled sharply, heart hammering. They weren't out of danger, not by far, but for the first time since the stranger had appeared, he felt a sliver of hope. Kai was more than a wolf. He was a force, a protector, a companion. And with him, maybe, just maybe, they could survive what was coming. The forest was alive with tension, the mist curling around trunks like watchful ghosts. Every heartbeat, every breath, carried them forward, toward survival, toward answers, and toward the inevitable confrontation they couldn't avoid. And somewhere in the shadows, the rivals' eyes glowed with quiet fury, promising that this battle, far from over, would leave none of them unchanged. The forest thinned as Kenji and Aya pushed through the last of the rain's slicked undergrowth. Mud clung to their boots, and the scent of wet earth mixed with pine and faint blood from the struggle earlier. Kai padded just ahead, muscles coiled, eyes scanning every shadow. Even in the calm after the chase, the air felt heavy, like the forest itself was waiting, judging, watching, ready to punish a misstep. Kenji exhaled, forcing himself to slow. His chest ached from sprinting, his arms trembled slightly from adrenaline. Aya stayed close, small hands gripping his sleeve. "San, where are we going?" Kenji kept his eyes on the trail. "Somewhere safe for now. We can't go back to the garage, not yet." "The stranger knows we were there. He'll come again, and with more than one." Aya nodded, silent but alert, her hair plastered to her face. She had started noticing patterns, how Kenji listened to the forest, how Kai responded to the slightest sound, even how shadows hinted at movement before the eyes could register it. Her small chest tightened with a mix of fear and awe. He wasn't just protecting them. He was alive in a way she hadn't seen before, aware of danger the human mind couldn't process. A rustle in the underbrush made Kenji freeze. He pressed Aya behind him, wrench still in hand, muscles taut. Kai growled low, chest vibrating with tension, fur bristling. Two glowing eyes blinked from the shadows, a scout from the rival pack, sleek, silent, assessing. Kenji's pulse quickened. They were being followed, yes, but perhaps not yet trapped. "Stay still," he whispered. The scout circled slowly, sniffing the air, catching faint traces of sweat, blood, and fear. Then, after what felt like an eternity, it darted away, silent as a whisper, leaving only the faint rustle of leaves. Kenji exhaled, lowering his wrench slightly. "Too close," he muttered. "They're watching, waiting." Aya leaned into him, shivering. "We can't keep running forever," she said softly. He looked at her, eyes shadowed with worry. "No," he admitted. "Eventually we'll have to fight smart or we won't survive. But running buys time, time to understand Kai, time to figure out who's behind this. And why they're hunting him." Kai padded over, brushing against Kenji's leg, fur slick from the storm. The wolf's golden eyes flicked toward the distant ridge, then back at Kenji, as if acknowledging both the danger and the plan. Kenji knelt, pressing a hand against the wolf's flank. "We're in this together," he thought. "You, me, Aya, we survive, or none of us do." The trio moved cautiously along a narrow creek, using the sound of flowing water to mask their presence. Kenji scanned the ridge again, noticing faint tracks, human boots, claw marks, and signs of recent passage. Someone had been here, recently. Someone capable, patient, and relentless. Aya whispered, "San, do you think we can stop them?" Kenji's jaw tightened. He looked at Kai, golden eyes gleaming with instinctual power, then back at the girl who trusted him completely. "I don't know yet," he admitted, voice low. "But we'll find a way, we have to, and when we do." "Nothing will catch us by surprise again," Kai growled softly, as if affirming the plan. The forest, heavy with mist and the scent of rain, seemed to shift around them. Every tree, every shadow, every echo of the creek reminded Kenji that they were far from safe. But for the first time, he felt the faint spark of control returning. Somewhere ahead, the forest opened slightly, revealing jagged rocks that could serve as a lookout or a trap. Kenji's gut tightened. They were stepping into the next part of the hunt. And he knew, deep in his bones, that the storm chasing them wasn't just outside anymore. It was alive. The jagged rocks loomed ahead, slick with rain and moss, sharp edges cutting shadows into the mist. Kenji led Aya carefully, her small hand in his, while Kai moved ahead like a silent sentinel, ears flicking at every sound, golden eyes sweeping the surrounding woods. The wolf's instincts were hyper-alert, the faintest hint of movement enough to make him pause, growl, or pivot with lethal precision. Kenji's chest ached, not just from exertion but from constant tension. Every step, every glance over his shoulder reminded him that they were still being hunted. Not just the stranger from the garage, but others. Scouts, predators, eyes that didn't belong to humans. He felt the weight of responsibility crush him slightly. Aya's safety, Kai's survival, their combined lives hanging by threads thinner than spider silk. A sudden snap of a branch made him freeze. Kai stiffened immediately, growl vibrating low in his chest. Kenji pressed Aya behind a mossy boulder, wrench gripped tightly. From the shadows, another figure emerged, not fully wolfed, not fully human, but shifting between forms with terrifying grace. Golden eyes locked on Kai. "You think running will save you?" the figure asked, voice smooth, almost taunting. "I've tracked this wolf across 3 ridges. I know every move, every habit, and now I find you." Kai's fur bristled, growl escalating into a deep rumble that reverberated through the rocks. The rival was skilled, yes, but Kai was faster, sharper, more instinct-driven. Kenji felt the wolf's energy under his hands, coiled ready. Aya whispered, voice barely audible, "Nick-san, what do we do?" Kenji's gaze flicked between her and the approaching rival. He could feel Kai's pulse, sense the tension, the battle-ready posture of the wolf. "We use the terrain," he whispered. "Move quietly. Don't let him predict us." Kai nudged him forward, signaling readiness. Kenji exhaled sharply, chest tight. Each step across the slick stones was deliberate, measured, silent. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, mist curling like watchful fingers. The rival lunged suddenly, claws scraping against stone. Kai reacted instantly, intercepting with a twist and snap that sent the attacker stumbling back. Kenji grabbed Aya's hand, pulling her along a narrow ledge that overlooked the creek. The water below gurgled, masking their movement, giving them a temporary cover. "You think you can hide behind rocks and water?" the rival hissed, shifting fully into wolfed form now, golden eyes gleaming. "I always find my prey." Kai growled, circling, every muscle rippling. The wolf wasn't just protecting them, he was warning, claiming, asserting dominance over the intruder. Kenji felt the bond thrumming between them, a silent communication, an unspoken plan forming in the chaos. Suddenly, a branch snapped from above. Another scout, smaller, quicker, moving silently among the trees. Kenji's pulse spiked. They were surrounded or close enough that escape required precision, timing, and trust in Kai's instincts. He pressed Aya close. "Follow me exactly. Don't hesitate. One wrong move." His words trailed off, swallowed by the tension of the forest. Kai lunged first, a blur of black fur and gold eyes, forcing the 2 wolfed predators to split focus. Kenji seized the moment, guiding Aya along the narrow ledge, muscles coiled, heart hammering with each step. Mist swirled around them, the rocks beneath slippery, but escape was possible if they stayed synchronized. The forest seemed to pulse with energy, the scent of predators, the tension of the chase, the promise of confrontation. Kenji felt alive in a way he hadn't before, every nerve alert, every instinct engaged. And for the first time since the storm began, he realized that survival wasn't just about fleeing. It was about controlling the moment, using their bond, and understanding the wolf beneath him. Kai growled again, sharp and commanding. Kenji tightened his grip on Aya's hand. They were moving into the heart of danger. And Kenji knew there was no turning back now. The narrow ledge ended abruptly at a drop-off, rocks slick and treacherous beneath their feet. Kenji pressed Aya close, feeling the tremor in her grip and the rapid pulse against his hand. Kai prowled ahead, muscles coiled, golden eyes scanning every shadow, every movement in the misty forest. The wolf's growl rumbled like distant thunder, warning any predator daring to follow. Kenji's mind raced. The rival pack wasn't giving up. They were persistent, cunning, and coordinated. One misstep, one hesitation, and the outcome could be fatal. He glanced at Aya, whose wide eyes reflected trust and fear intertwined. "Stay behind me," he whispered, voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. "Follow exactly where I step, do not look back." Kai's ears flicked, sensing movement above them. A shadow descended, another wolfed figure leaping from the canopy with unnatural precision. Kenji tightened his jaw. This wasn't just a pursuit anymore, it was an ambush. The intruder landed silently, eyes locking on Kai. "I warned you," he hissed, fangs flashing. "This wolf belongs to me. You've stolen what is mine." Kai snarled, low and dangerous, hackles raised. The wolf lunged, claws scraping against stone, golden eyes blazing. The force of the collision shook the ledge, and Kenji swore he could feel every ripple in the air, the raw power pressing against him. He held Aya tighter, letting Kai's instincts guide the way. A crack of stone underfoot drew Kenji's attention. He cursed under his breath. One wrong step could send them tumbling into the creek below. But Kai anticipated, pivoting, guiding the rival off balance. The wolfed predator hissed, snapping, retreating just enough for Kenji and Aya to move forward along the ledge. "Keep going," Kenji urged, dragging Aya along, heart hammering with every precarious step. Sweat and mist soaked his face, mud streaking his clothes. The forest was alive with the sounds of growls, snapping branches, and the faint rush of water below. Every sense screamed danger, every instinct urged caution. Another shadow moved in the mist, a scout, smaller, faster, circling to cut off escape. Kenji cursed silently. They were closing in, narrowing the options. But Kai wasn't just a wolf, he was a guardian, a force of nature. Kenji could feel the wolf's confidence, the silent communication between them. They had a rhythm now, a bond strengthened by chase, fear, and trust. The scout lunged, attempting to flank them. Kai twisted midair, intercepting with precision, teeth bared, claws extended. Kenji dragged Aya over a narrow crevice, ignoring the spray of mud and water, moving with a determination fueled by desperation. "You'll never take him," Kenji shouted, voice raw, adrenaline and fury merging. "Not while I'm alive." Kai growled in agreement, the sound reverberating through the rocks and forest. The rival wolves hesitated for a fraction of a heartbeat, assessing the bond, the power, the unyielding connection between human and wolf. Kenji pressed Aya against his chest, heart pounding. He could feel every heartbeat, every surge of instinct from Kai, every tremor in the forest. This wasn't just survival anymore, it was strategy, defiance, and raw courage stitched together. The mist thickened around them, masking movement, offering cover. Kenji glanced ahead. The ledge widened slightly, a natural formation that could provide a temporary sanctuary. But the moment they reached it, he knew would mark a turning point. Kai growled, poised, tense, ready to defend. Kenji exhaled sharply, gripping Aya's hand. They had survived the ambush, but the hunt was far from over. The temporary sanctuary was a small plateau above the creek, moss-covered rocks providing a precarious sense of safety. Kenji lowered Aya gently, brushing mud from her hair. Her wide eyes reflected exhaustion, and the way children hold wonder even in the shadow of danger. Kai prowled the edge, tail low but muscles coiled, sensing the forest's quiet tremors, sniffing for any lingering threat. Kenji exhaled, running a hand over his face. His chest still ached, heart hammering from the chase, but the sharp edge of fear dulled slightly in the presence of the wolf. Kai's vigilance was absolute, and for the first time since the attack began, Kenji allowed himself a brief measure of relief. Not safety, just a moment of clarity. "Do you think they'll follow us here?" Aya asked softly, her voice trembling. Kenji crouched, meeting her gaze. "Probably, they know we're here, but this spot, it gives us a vantage. If we can hold it long enough, we might figure out who's really behind this and how to stop them." Kai growled low, eyes fixed on the forest, ears twitching. The wolf's instincts hummed beneath Kenji's fingertips. There was something in the scent on the wind, something unfamiliar but deliberate. Another force moving in the shadows, not aligned with the rival pack, not human, yet aware. A predator, or perhaps an ally waiting for the right moment. Kenji's mind raced. Every escape had led them closer to understanding Kai, the wolf, and the hidden power that marked him. Each confrontation revealed more than danger. It revealed layers of instincts, intelligence, and connection that human senses couldn't fully comprehend. He pressed a hand against Kai's flank, feeling the pulse of muscles coiled like springs. "He trusts me. I have to trust him too." A rustle from above drew their attention. Kenji's muscles tensed, wrench ready. From the tree line emerged a figure, not fully wolfed, not fully human, but fluid between forms, golden eyes catching the light. Froze mid-step, studying them. "Who are you?" Kenji demanded, voice steady despite the pounding adrenaline. "Are you with them or against?" The figure tilted his head, a predatory smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Perhaps a little of both," he said smoothly. "But I'm not here to fight yet. I've been following your trail, observing. You have a wolf that shouldn't exist in the wild like this, and a human remarkably stubborn." Aya clutched Kenji's sleeve, eyes wide. "Nick-san, can we trust him?" Kenji's gaze flicked between the stranger and Kai. The wolf's ears twitched, muscles coiled but relaxed slightly. There was curiosity there, caution but not hostility. That gave Kenji a tentative hope. "I don't know," Kenji admitted, voice low. "But we'll find out soon. Kai, stay close, Aya behind me, and watch every move." The stranger's gaze swept the plateau, then back to them. "You've survived longer than I expected, but the true test is coming. The one who wants the wolf. They don't forgive mistakes, and they don't wait." Kenji's jaw tightened. He felt the weight of responsibility settle heavy on his shoulders. Protecting Aya, controlling Kai, anticipating attacks from unknown forces, it was exhausting, terrifying. And yet a spark of determination lit within him. He wouldn't allow fear to dictate their fate. Not now, not ever. Kai padded forward, sniffing the new arrival, tail brushing the rocks. The golden eyes of the stranger met Kai's gaze, tension coiling like a spring between them. Kenji pressed a hand to Aya's shoulder. The next move wasn't just survival. It was the first step toward claiming their own power. And the forest waited. The stranger didn't move, yet the air around him hummed with tension. Kai's ears twitched, tail flicking in measured agitation. Kenji could feel the wolf's instincts sharpening, muscles coiling as if anticipating a strike that hadn't come yet. Pressed Aya closer, feeling the small tremor in her hands, and whispered, "Watch him. Don't panic, just follow my lead." The figure finally spoke, voice smooth, deliberate. "Your bond is unusual. Most humans cannot influence their wolf so directly. But you, Kenji, you've managed something rare. That is why I'm here to observe, to see if your decisions match your instincts." Kenji's jaw tightened. "And if they do?" A faint smile flickered across the stranger's face. "Then you'll learn consequences quickly. Those who covet power rarely forgive mistakes." Kai growled, low and menacing, the sound vibrating through the rocks beneath them. Kenji could feel the wolf's alertness like electricity in the air. Something about this stranger unsettled even Kai, and Kenji's stomach tightened. The forest seemed to lean closer, listening, alive with subtle movement. Aya tugged at his sleeve. "Nick-san, can we trust him?" Kenji's gaze met hers. He had no certainty. "I don't know," he admitted softly. "But sometimes." Survival means listening before fighting. Watch, learn, and stay ready. The stranger's eyes flicked to Aya, assessing but not threatening. "The human girl is clever, observant. That will be useful or dangerous for your wolf. Keep her close." Kenji glanced at Kai. The wolf sniffed the air, growl easing slightly, ears still alert. The bond between them throbbed, a silent communication of caution, curiosity, and tentative strategy. Kenji felt it pulse through his fingertips, a reminder that trust was built in moments like these. Suddenly, movement stirred from the ridge above. A scout, one of the rival pack, shifted into view, golden eyes glinting, claws scraping rock. Kenji's muscles tensed. "Kai, cover me," he whispered. The wolf lunged forward, fangs bared, claws extending, a blur of black and gold. The scout hissed, leaping back, then darted into the shadows. Kenji felt a surge of adrenaline and fear, heart hammering, but the plateau gave them slight advantage. The rival would hesitate with Kai between him and the humans. The stranger finally moved, stepping closer, shifting partially into wolfed form, sleek, agile, power evident in every movement. "You are clever," he murmured. "Not reckless. That could save your life if you survive the next phase. The one who hunts your wolf is patient. And ruthless, you must be ready." Aya's voice trembled, but she was trying to sound brave. "We will be ready, Nek-san." Kenji placed a hand on her shoulder, meeting her gaze. "We have to be," he said, voice firm. "Kai, stay close, Aya behind me, and everyone eyes open. One mistake," he didn't finish. The forest already whispered the consequences. The stranger's eyes gleamed, golden and calculating. "Remember this moment, the calm before the storm. Soon there will be no room for hesitation, only action and survival." Kai padded close to Kenji, nudging him with his muzzle. The wolf's energy was contained but ready to explode. Kenji pressed a hand against Kai's flank, feeling the thrum of restrained power. The forest held its breath. the mist curling between trees, shadows shifting with hidden intent. Every sound, every scent, every glimmer of movement carried meaning. The next steps would test them, not just strength or skill, but trust, instincts, and the unbreakable bond between human and wolf. Kenji exhaled sharply. He tightened his grip on Aya's hand. The storm waiting for them outside wasn't just a threat. It was a reckoning. The mist thickened around the plateau, curling like restless fingers between trees and jagged rocks. Kenji's boots slipped slightly on the wet stone as he scanned the ridge above, muscles tense. Kai prowled the edge, low growl vibrating through the rocks, eyes flicking from shadow to shadow. Every instinct screamed that more danger was coming, closer, faster, and smarter than before. Aya pressed against his side, whispering, "Nei-san, what do we do if they attack?" Kenji swallowed hard, jaw tight. "We survive," he said firmly. "Step by step, trust Kai and trust me. One wrong move and we could lose everything." Kai barked sharply, signaling movement from the ridge. Kenji's heart skipped. A figure emerged, fully wolfed now, golden eyes blazing, muscles coiled like springs. It was the rival from before, but now he was joined by two smaller scouts, moving with synchronized precision, circling them like shadows hungry for prey. Kenji's pulse hammered. "Kai now," he whispered. The wolf surged forward, black fur blending with mist, teeth bared, claws scraping stone. The rival leapt toward Kai, and the two collided in a blur of gold and black. Growls echoed, resonating through the plateau, the impact sending vibrations up Kenji's legs. Aya clutched his sleeve, eyes wide, as rocks shifted under the struggle. Kenji ducked instinctively, heart racing with adrenaline. "Stay close," he whispered, pressing her to the side. The smaller scouts lunged at the humans, claws scraping dangerously close. Kenji sidestepped, wrench raised instinctively, using the terrain to his advantage. One miscalculated step, and a scout slipped, giving Kai the opening to snap back, teeth sinking into the rival's flank. A yelp echoed, then a growl as the adversary twisted, regaining balance, golden eyes narrowing on Kai with lethal intent. Kenji exhaled sharply, adrenaline coiling in his chest. Every step, every breath, every muscle was taut with anticipation. This was more than a fight, it was strategy, instinct, trust. He glanced at Aya, whose trembling hands tightened around his sleeve. "We have to move," he said softly. "Now." Kai shifted, sensing the urgency, nudging Kenji toward a narrow ridge above the creek. The smaller scouts hesitated for a fraction of a second, enough for the human and girl to start climbing. Mist swirled around them, masking their movement, but the forest hummed with anticipation, alive with predator and prey energy. The rival wolf roared, launching after them, fangs flashing, claws scraping stone. Kai intercepted, a blur of black fur and molten eyes, holding the aggressor just long enough for Kenji and Aya to gain higher ground. Kenji's muscles burned, lungs heaving, but the rhythm of their escape, man, wolf, girl, was precise, synchronized, almost instinctive. Finally, they reached a small alcove, partially hidden by jagged rock. Kenji pressed Aya to the wall, her small form shivering, eyes wide. Kai circled the entrance, low growl vibrating, eyes glowing gold in the dim light. The mist swirled around them, muffling sound, hiding movement. The rival wolf prowled below, frustration evident in every tense motion. His scouts vanished back into the shadows, regrouping, waiting for the next moment to strike. Kenji's jaw tightened. They had survived this ambush, but only barely. Aya whispered, voice shaky, "Nei-san, will they come back?" Kenji pressed a hand to her shoulder, exhaling slowly. "Yes, and next time we'll be ready." Kai nudged Kenji, golden eyes locking with his. The bond throbbed with trust, with power, with the knowledge that survival was no longer just about running. It was about owning the moment. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The hunt was far from over, but for now they had survived. The forest seemed quieter now, though Kenji knew better than to trust silence. Mist clung to the trunks like a living thing, curling and twisting with every gust of wind. He pressed Aya close, sensing her shivering not just from cold, but from adrenaline that refused to leave her system. Kai prowled ahead, muscles coiled, nose twitching at the faintest scent of movement. Every instinct screamed that danger was near, though the immediate threat had receded. "Do you think they'll follow us all the way?" Aya asked, voice trembling slightly. Kenji shook his head, eyes scanning the tree line. "They'll try. They're persistent, clever, and patient. But we've learned more than they expect. Every ambush, every scout, it's teaching us, teaching Kai and me how to anticipate them." Kai barked sharply, a warning, and Kenji's gaze flicked upward. Between the misted branches, a figure shifted fluidly, moving almost like a shadow on the wind. Golden eyes caught the faint light, assessing, calculating. Kenji's jaw tightened. They weren't alone. Whoever or whatever this was, it wasn't aligned with the rival pack. Aya leaned into him, whispering, "Nick-san, who is that?" "I don't know," Kenji admitted, voice low. "But we'll find out soon enough. Stay close." The figure descended silently, landing on a moss-covered rock with grace that made Kenji's pulse spike. Partial wolfed form, agile, dangerous, but not hostile. Just observing, Kai growled, low and cautious, but didn't advance. Kenji sensed a curiosity in the stranger attest. "You move well," the figure said, voice smooth. "And your wolf, he is remarkable. Few humans can bond so completely, most fail." Kenji's gaze narrowed. "Why are you here, to watch or to interfere?" The stranger smiled faintly. "Perhaps both. I'm not here to fight, yet." "The one hunting your wolf is no ordinary predator. You'll need every advantage, every lesson, and I am a teacher of sorts." Aya's eyes widened. "A teacher, for Kai." Kenji placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "For all of us, apparently. Watch carefully, Aya. Sometimes the lessons come in ways you don't expect and from places you wouldn't trust." Kai shifted, sniffing the air, growl easing slightly. The wolf seemed to sense that the stranger's intentions weren't immediately hostile, though caution remained. Kenji felt the pulse of his companion beneath his hand, a steady rhythm of power and instinct. "Time is short," the stranger continued. "The hunter will return, stronger, smarter, and with fewer mistakes. You need to be ready not just to survive, but to protect what you care for. That includes the human girl, the wolf, and yourself." Kenji's mind raced. He had been focused on survival, on staying one step ahead, but the stranger's words shifted his perspective. Protection wasn't just physical. It was strategy, anticipation, understanding the wolf, the rival, and the terrain. Aya tugged gently at his sleeve. "Nick-san, do we have a chance?" Kenji met her gaze, muscles tight but resolve firm. "We do," he said quietly. "If we learn quickly, if we trust each other, and if we never, ever let fear make decisions for us." The mist swirled around them as the stranger stepped back, blending into the shadows of the plateau. Kenji felt the forest's pulse, the weight of observation, and the subtle shift in Kai's demeanor. They were being watched, but now perhaps not just hunted. Kenji exhaled sharply, tightening his grip on Aya's hand. The next storm was coming, and this time they would be ready to meet it head-on. The plateau grew colder as the mist thickened, curling around tree trunks and rocks, blurring the edges of the forest. Kenji tightened his jacket, pressing Aya closer. Her small hands clutched his sleeve, trembling, and he could feel her heartbeat, fast, uneven, terrified yet resolute. Kai prowled silently ahead, tail low but coiled with restrained power, ears flicking to every sound, nostrils flaring to catch the faintest scent. A crack of a branch in the distance made Kenji freeze. Golden eyes scanned the shadows. Something or someone was moving with careful, deliberate steps. He could sense it in the vibration of the earth, the shift in the mist, the tension in Kai's muscles. "Stay behind me," Kenji whispered to Aya. "Watch, listen, and don't make a sound." A figure emerged through the mist, tall, partially wolfed, moving with uncanny grace. The stranger from before, the one who called himself a teacher, was back. But now he wasn't alone. Behind him, two more shapes emerged, human enough to see faces, wolf enough to smell like predators. Scouts. They were observing, calculating, waiting for a sign, a mistake. Kenji's pulse quickened. He crouched slightly, keeping Aya low, eyes flicking to Kai. The wolf's growl rumbled deep in his chest, but there was a controlled tension there, like coiled steel. Kai was ready, but waiting for Kenji's signal. "You've come far," the teacher said, voice calm, almost casual. "But survival isn't just about avoiding attacks. It's about knowing your enemy, predicting their movements, and most importantly, understanding your wolf." Kenji's jaw tightened. "We've survived this long. That should be proof enough." The stranger's eyes glinted, golden and calculating. "Survival is temporary, understanding is permanent. One mistake and the hunter, your rival, will take advantage. He's not like you. He's patient, ruthless, and he doesn't forgive errors." Aya whispered almost to herself, "We have to be better than him." Kenji pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Exactly," he said firmly. "And we will, step by step, we learn, we adapt, we survive. Kai ready." The wolf's ears twitched, tail flicked, and golden eyes locked on the approaching scouts. His growl deepened, vibrating through Kenji's chest. The teacher smiled faintly, acknowledging the bond. "Good, that connection is rare, use it wisely. Your instincts are tied to his. Your decisions are shared, forget one and you both fall." Kenji's mind raced. each lesson layered over the last. Each ambush and encounter sharpened their instincts, their understanding of Kai, and their comprehension of the forest as a living, reactive entity. He had learned that survival required more than strength. It required strategy, trust, and timing. Suddenly, one of the scouts moved faster than expected, testing a path through the mist. Kenji reacted instantly, grabbing Aya's hand and ducking behind a boulder, wrench at the ready. Kai leapt forward, a blur of black and gold, intercepting the scout before he could reach them. Claws scraped stone, fangs bared, growls echoing. Aya gasped, pressing her face to Kenji's side. "Nei-san," he exhaled sharply, keeping his focus, muscles taut. "We're okay, keep calm, watch Kai, he's not just protecting us, he's guiding us. Follow his lead." The teacher observed silently, golden eyes glinting in the mist. Kenji understood this was a test. Not just of skill, but of trust, patience, and the bond between human and wolf. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Every shadow, every rustle, every sent a message to decode. Kenji tightened his grip on Aya's hand. The next lesson had begun. Mist rolled thickly between the trees, dripping from leaves and clinging to jagged rocks as if the forest itself were breathing. Kenji crouched low behind a boulder, Aya pressed tightly against him. Kai prowled the edge, muscles taut, ears flicking in every direction. The faintest rustle, the softest crack drew immediate attention. Their world was now a chessboard of shadows, instincts, and anticipation. Kenji's eyes scanned the ridge above. 2 scouts had moved closer, careful, measured, testing the plateau's boundaries. He whispered to Aya, voice barely audible, "Watch him. Don't panic. Move only when I signal." Aya nodded, trembling but focused. Kenji could feel her heartbeat against his chest, rapid yet steadying in a strange way, a rhythm that reminded him what they were protecting. Not just themselves, but trust, bond, survival. Kai growled low, tail bristling, golden eyes locked on the approaching scouts. The wolf's energy pulsed through the rocks, through Kenji's fingers pressed against his flank, a silent communication, ready but patient, waiting for the right moment. Suddenly, one scout lunged, fangs bared, claws scraping stone. Kai reacted instantly, intercepting with precision, teeth sinking into the rival's flank. The forest echoed with growls and yelps, a symphony of tension. Kenji seized the moment, pulling Aya along the narrow ledge, careful not to lose footing on the slick moss. The teacher watched silently from the shadows, partially wolfed form shifting fluidly, assessing, calculating. "Excellent," he murmured. "But remember, the hunter will not hesitate. You must anticipate, not react. Always anticipate." Kenji's jaw tightened. He had been reacting for too long, escaping, surviving, but now he understood. Anticipation required trust, intuition, and total awareness of Kai's instincts. Every leap, every snap, every growl was a signal, a map, a warning. The rival scout twisted, yelping, claws scraping the rock as Kai forced him back. Kenji grabbed Aya's hand, guiding her over a narrow crevice, mist curling around their legs. The adrenaline surged, but his mind was focused, calculating each step, each movement. "Keep going," he whispered. "Almost there." The scouts hesitated for the first time, golden eyes darting between Kai and Kenji. The wolf's presence was undeniable, dominant, protective, commanding. Kenji felt a swell of gratitude, respect, and something deeper he hadn't allowed himself to name. Trust, bond, power intertwined. Finally, they reached a larger plateau, moss-covered rocks forming a temporary sanctuary. Kenji pressed Aya to the wall, catching her gaze. "Safe for now," he said quietly. Her hands shook, but determination burned in her eyes. Kai circled, alert, ears flicking to the forest's subtle shifts. The teacher stepped closer, observing. "You've learned much," he said, "but the true test is coming. The hunter will return, more cunning, more prepared. You must be ready, not just to survive, but to fight, to protect, to command. That is your next lesson." Kenji nodded, hand on Kai's flank, feeling the pulse of power beneath his palm. Aya's small hand pressed against his chest, her warmth a tether to reality, to responsibility. The mist swirled, shadows stretching like silent observers, the forest alive with anticipation. The next storm was inevitable, but Kenji exhaled, steadying himself. They were ready to meet it. The hunt was far from over, but the bond between human and wolf had never been stronger. Dawn seeped through the mist, painting the forest in muted shades of silver and green. Kenji crouched on a mossy boulder, Aya pressed against his side, eyes wide and alert. The events of the night had left traces, broken twigs, mud streaks, and the lingering scent of rival wolves. Every sound, every flutter of leaves made him tense. Kai prowled the perimeter, golden eyes sharp, muscles coiled, sensing shifts in the air invisible to human perception. "Do you think they'll attack today?" Aya whispered, voice barely audible. Kenji exhaled slowly, brushing a strand of damp hair from her forehead. "They will try. They've been patient and now they've learned our rhythm, but patience can be used against them too." Kai growled, a low vibration that reverberated through the plateau. The wolf sniffed at the mist, ears flicking to distant sounds. Kenji pressed a hand to his flank, feeling the subtle tremor of controlled energy beneath the fur, a pulse of readiness, instinct, and unspoken communication. The forest was alive with tension. Every rustle of leaves, every drip of dew from branches, seemed magnified, amplified. Kenji's senses, sharpened from weeks of survival, picked up faint scents. Distant smoke, the iron tang of blood, and something unfamiliar, another predator, hidden, moving strategically. Aya shivered. "Nice-san. What if we can't handle it?" Kenji's gaze softened briefly. "We can, and we will. You've been brave, Aya. Every moment you've stayed close, followed instructions, trusted it matters. Survival isn't just about strength. It's about trust, patience, and timing." Kai barked sharply, breaking the moment, signaling movement from the ridge above. Kenji tensed. Golden eyes scanned the mist, another figure emerging, this one larger, fully wolfed, muscles rippling under black fur. The rival had returned, alone this time, but every motion screamed experience, skill, and calculated intent. Kenji pressed Aya behind him. "Stay still," he whispered. "Follow my lead, watch Kai." The rival wolf prowled closer, testing, circling, eyes glinting with cold intelligence. Kenji could feel Kai's muscles tighten beneath his hand. The bond between them thrummed, a shared heartbeat of readiness. Kenji's mind raced. Every misstep could cost them. Every hesitation might be fatal. "You've grown," the rival said, voice low, gravelly, not fully human, carrying menace and respect. "But growth is not enough. Strength alone does not win. Strategy, anticipation, and bonds that cannot be broken." Kenji's jaw clenched. "We'll see," he said, voice steady. "Kai isn't just my wolf, he's ours. Aya trusts him, I trust him, and we survive together." The rival snarled, advancing slowly, claws scraping stone. Kai lunged, a blur of black and gold, intercepting, teeth flashing, growl deep and commanding. The mist swirled around the combatants, masking movements, echoing with tension. Kenji felt every pulse, every vibration, every instinct communicated through the wolf. Aya's breath caught as she pressed closer. "Nice-san, be careful." Kenji's focus sharpened. Every step, every motion, every sense was aligned. Survival was no longer just about running. It was about reading, predicting, commanding, and trusting the bond he had forged with Kai. The rival paused, golden eyes meeting Kai's, then flicked to Kenji. Respect and challenge wove together in a dangerous tapestry. Kenji exhaled slowly, tightening his grip on Aya's hand. The forest held its breath. This confrontation would define them. The rival wolf circled slowly, every movement deliberate, muscles rippling beneath black fur. Kai's growl was low, vibrating through Kenji's chest, eyes locked on the intruder with unblinking focus. The forest seemed to hush, the mist curling like watchful fingers as if even the trees waited for the inevitable clash. Kenji crouched slightly, hand pressed to Kai's flank, feeling the thrum of controlled energy. "Stay sharp," he murmured, voice low. "Every move matters." Aya clutched his sleeve, breath shallow. "Nice-san, do we have a chance?" Kenji met her gaze. "Yes, if we move together. Watch Kai. Learn the rhythm. Anticipate." The rival wolf lunged suddenly, teeth flashing, claws scraping stone. Kai reacted instantly, a blur of black and gold, meeting the attack head-on. The sound of claws and growls echoed, ricocheting through the rocks, reverberating in Kenji's chest. He pressed Aya down behind a boulder, heart hammering, adrenaline coiling like fire in his veins. The mist masked every movement, yet Kenji could feel it all. The predator's intent, Kai's responses, the subtle shifts in the wind that carried scent and warning. The bond between human and wolf pulsed like a living heartbeat. Every instinct, every calculation, every silent command was transmitted through the connection they had forged over weeks of survival. The rival wolf twisted, snapping toward Kenji, golden eyes glinting with menace. Kenji reacted, wrench ready, muscles tensed. But before he could strike, Kai intercepted, claws extending, fangs bared. The force of the collision sent vibrations up Kenji's arms, and he pressed Aya closer, her small hands gripping his jacket tightly. "You've improved," the rival growled, retreating slightly, circling again. But instinct alone is not enough. Anticipation, precision, and unbreakable bonds are what win. Kenji's jaw tightened. He had been surviving, reacting, escaping, but this confrontation demanded more. Strategy, patience, and the deep trust between him and Kai were the only tools that could turn the tide. Kai snarled, shifting stance, tail lashing, ears pinned. Kenji felt the wolf's thoughts: prepare, predict, protect. Kenji nodded slightly, heart pounding. "We do this together," he whispered. Another lunge. Kai met the rival's attack, teeth clashing, claws digging. Kenji moved with precision, pulling Aya behind cover, watching, analyzing every pattern, every rhythm of the predator. The forest seemed to contract around them, mist thickening, hiding movement, amplifying tension. The rival paused, sizing them up, breathing heavy, golden eyes scanning Kenji, then Aya, then Kai. "Clever," he said, voice low. "But cleverness alone will not save you. Survival requires more control, awareness, unity." Kenji exhaled, pressing a hand to Kai's flank, feeling the energy surge beneath his touch. Every lesson, every escape, every ambush had led to this moment. Survival was no longer. They had to command, to anticipate, to protect with precision. Aya whispered, voice trembling, "Nick-san, can we?" Kenji's gaze softened, determination blazing. "We will, together." The rival wolf stepped back slightly, growling low, calculating, golden eyes flicking between the humans and Kai. The forest hummed around them, alive with anticipation. Kenji felt it, the bond, the trust, the readiness. The next strike would define them. The hunt was far from over, but they were ready. The forest seemed to pulse with anticipation, mist curling like living tendrils around mossy rocks and gnarled tree trunks. Kenji crouched, Aya pressed close, listening to every subtle shift. The scrape of claws on stone, the whisper of wind through branches, the faint metallic scent of tension in the air. Kai's growl rumbled deep, low, and steady, a warning, a signal, a heartbeat shared between human and wolf. Kenji tightened his grip on Aya's hand. "Stay close, follow my lead, and trust Kai," he whispered. Her small fingers squeezed his back, silent affirmation, courage in tiny, trembling form. The rival wolf moved with precise calculation, circling the plateau, eyes flicking, muscles coiled. Kenji could sense every movement, anticipate every strike. But the difference this time was clarity. He wasn't just reacting. He was predicting, aligning with Kai, integrating every lesson the teacher had drilled into them over weeks of peril. Suddenly, the rival lunged. Black and gold collided with black and gold, fangs clashing, claws scraping stone. The mist twisted around the combatants, masking movement, but Kenji felt the vibrations, the pulse of energy, the rhythm of the fight. He guided Aya behind a boulder, breath sharp, muscles tensed, every sense alert. Kai twisted mid-air, intercepting another strike, growl vibrating through Kenji's chest. The wolf's energy surged like wildfire beneath his hand, controlled but potent. Kenji's pulse synchronized, instinct and intellect fused. Every step, every dodge, every subtle shift of weight mattered. "You've learned well," the teacher's voice echoed softly from the mist, partially wolfed form shifting fluidly among shadows. "But lessons are not complete until instinct and strategy converge. You must anticipate not only the hunter's moves, but his thoughts. His patience is a weapon. Your bond is yours to wield." Kenji exhaled sharply, nodding subtly. Aya pressed against his side, face pale but resolute. "We can do this," she whispered, more to herself than to him. The rival wolf attacked again, fangs flashing, claws scraping, force rattling stones. Kai met him with equal precision, each strike calculated, each counter measured. Kenji guided Aya's movements, using every rock, every shadow, every subtle incline to their advantage. A sudden shift, a footslide, a misstep from the rival, gave Kai the opening. The wolf lunged, teeth flashing, forcing the rival back. Kenji felt the surge of power beneath him, the living pulse of the bond between human and wolf, adrenaline mingled with instinct, trust, and control. The rival paused, golden eyes locking with Kai S, then flicking to Kenji. Respect flickered there, mingled with frustration. The hunter had underestimated them, not just their strength, but their coordination, their bond, and their growing understanding of anticipation over reaction. Kenji pressed a hand to Aya's shoulder. "We've learned, we've grown, now we own this moment." Kai's growl deepened, a vibration of controlled dominance. The rival wolf hesitated, sizing them up, then retreated slowly into the mist, not defeated, but aware that this plateau had been claimed temporarily, tactically, strategically. Aya exhaled, trembling but steady. "Nick-san, we did it." Kenji smiled faintly, muscles still taut, gaze scanning the retreating shadow. "For now," he said softly. But every day, every moment, we get stronger, smarter, closer. Kai circled, nudging Kenji's hand, golden eyes warm, steady, loyal. The forest seemed to exhale around them, mist dispersing slightly, shadows relaxing. The bond, the lessons, the trust, it had solidified in fire and claw, in anticipation and precision. Kenji tightened his grip on Aya's hand one last time. The hunt wasn't over. The rival would return. But now they were ready, united, prepared, and unbreakable. The storm waiting beyond the trees was inevitable, and they would meet it together. The forest was heavier today, the mist hanging low, damp and insistent, wrapping around trees and boulders like a living presence. Kenji crouched near the edge of the ridge, Aya clinging to his side, eyes wide and alert. The events of the past nights had sharpened every sense, every reflex. Kai prowled the perimeter, muscles coiled, tail twitching, golden eyes flicking to every shadow, sniffing the faintest sense. "Do you feel it?" Aya whispered, voice trembling. "Something different today." Kenji nodded subtly, nostrils flaring. "Yes, the air carries tension. The rival's patience is thinning. He's coming, and this time it won't be a simple test." Kai growled low, a rumble that vibrated through Kenji's chest, ears pinned to distant movement. The wolf's energy pulsed beneath his hand, ready, controlled, warning. Every instinct, every learned rhythm between human and wolf surged into sharp focus. The teacher emerged from the mist again, partially wolfed form shifting fluidly among the shadows. "Today," he said softly, voice carrying both caution and anticipation, "the hunter will test more than your strength. He will test your bond, your strategy, and your courage. Every instinct will be challenged." Kenji pressed a hand to Aya's shoulder. "Stay close, watch Kai, every move matters." The forest shifted around them, subtle sounds echoing. A snapping twig, a rustle of leaves, the soft whisper of wind. Kenji's muscles tensed, every fiber alert. From the ridge above, golden eyes glinted in the mist. The rival had arrived, fully wolfed, larger, more formidable than before. He moved with a predator's grace, scanning, assessing, plotting. "Kenji," the rival growled, voice low and dangerous, "you've survived longer than expected. But anticipation alone won't be enough. Today, strength, cunning, and unity will decide everything." Kai snarled, stepping forward, stance solid, body coiled like a spring. Kenji could feel the wolf's readiness, the silent command vibrating through their bond. Protect, anticipate, strike. Aya pressed closer, whispering, "Nay, San, we can do this, right?" Kenji's jaw tightened. "Yes, we survived together, and today we fight together." The rival lunged suddenly, a blur of black and gold. Kai intercepted instantly, teeth flashing, claws scraping stone. The mist swirled, concealing movements, amplifying tension. Kenji moved Aya behind a boulder, watching, analyzing every strike, every feint, every rhythm of the predator. "You've grown," the teacher murmured from the shadows. "But growth without cohesion is meaningless. Trust, understanding, timing, these will carry you further than strength alone." Kenji exhaled sharply, muscles taut, focus absolute. The rhythm between him and Kai had become instinctual, precise. Every movement, every glance, every shared thought strengthened the bond that would define survival. The rival paused, golden eyes narrowing, sizing them up. Kenji met Kai's gaze, feeling the surge of power, anticipation, and trust. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Today would not be another test. Today everything changed. The rival wolf circled again, low growl vibrating through the mist-laden forest. Each step was measured, deliberate, a predator weighing its prey and its strategy. Kenji crouched, muscles coiled, Aya pressed against him, shivering slightly but holding steady. Kai's tail lashed, ears pinned, golden eyes locked on the intruder. The bond between human and wolf thrummed, every beat synchronized with Kenji's own pulse. "Remember," the teacher's voice floated through the mist, calm but carrying authority. "Anticipation is your weapon. Reacting is a weakness. Predict, read, trust Kai, and trust yourself." Kenji nodded subtly, jaw tight, eyes flicking to every shadow, every hint of movement. Aya's fingers clutched his sleeve. "Next, San, I'm scared." He pressed a reassuring hand to her back, voice low but firm. "That's okay. Fear sharpens us if we don't let it control us. Trust Kai, trust me, trust yourself." The rival lunged, teeth flashing, claws scraping against the rock-strewn plateau. Kai met the strike with precision, growl resonating through Kenji's chest. The mist twisted around them, masking the clash, every snap and scrape amplified by the tension hanging in the air. Kenji shifted, pulling Aya behind a rock for cover, eyes scanning every detail. The rival's pattern, Kai's positioning, the way the shadows moved. The wolf's energy pulsed under his hand, alert, controlled, guiding. Every muscle, every movement, every instinct communicated silently between them. A sudden feint from the rival caught Kai off guard for a split second. Kenji's stomach dropped, heart hammering. But instinct, honed through weeks of survival and the teacher's lessons, surged forward. He leaned slightly, guiding Kai's momentum with a subtle push, creating an opening. Kai twisted, striking with lethal precision, forcing the rival back. The wolf's growl deepened, a vibration of dominance and warning. Kenji felt the rhythm of the fight, the ebb and flow of power, the delicate balance between instinct and strategy. "You've learned," the teacher murmured from the shadows, golden eyes glinting. "But understanding is not mastery. Today, the bond is your only advantage. Protect it, wield it, and anticipate the consequences of failure." Aya's eyes were wide, chest rising and falling with each rapid inhale. "Next-san, we can do this," she whispered, voice trembling but determined. Kenji pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Yes, we will, together." The rival wolf paused, golden eyes flicking between Kenji and Kai, assessing, calculating. He lunged again, faster this time, muscles coiled, teeth flashing. Kai met him head-on, a blur of black and gold, growls colliding, claws scraping stone. Kenji's pulse synced with every motion, every vibration, every signal from Kai. The forest itself seemed to pulse with the intensity, the mist thickening, shadows shifting like spectators. Kenji's focus sharpened, anticipation, timing, cohesion. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were commanding the moment. A misstep from the rival opened a small window. Kenji whispered, guiding Kai subtly, "Now." The wolf lunged, teeth sinking, fangs clashing, claws striking in perfect harmony. The rival yelped, forced back, frustration flashing in golden eyes. Aya exhaled sharply, pressing closer. "Nei-san, we're doing it." Kenji nodded, jaw tight but resolve blazing. "Yes, but stay ready, the moment isn't over." The forest held its breath, shadows lingering, mist swirling. The hunt was reaching its peak, and Kenji knew the next strike would change everything. The forest seemed to tighten around them, mist thick and clinging, the scent of wet earth mingling with the metallic tang of tension. Kenji crouched low, Aya pressed against his side, fingers gripping his jacket. Every sense screamed alert, faint rustle of leaves, distant snapping twig, the low vibration of Kai's growl under his palm. The rival wolf moved with calculated patience, circling, assessing, waiting for an opening. "You're ready!" The teacher's voice drifted through the mist, smooth and quiet. But readiness is not enough. Anticipation, cohesion, and trust will define survival today. Kenji's jaw tightened. He pressed a hand to Aya's back. "Stay close, follow Kai, and trust the rhythm. Every move counts." The rival lunged suddenly, teeth bared, claws slicing through mist-shrouded air. Kai reacted instantly, intercepting with fluid precision. Black and gold collided with black, fangs snapping, claws scraping stone, the forest echoing with the sound of struggle. Kenji ducked, pulling Aya behind a moss-covered boulder, eyes scanning every subtle shift, shadow, sound, movement. A surge of instinct swept through him, amplified by Kai's rhythm. This wasn't just reaction, it was prediction. Every movement of the rival, every lunge, every feint was anticipated and countered. Kai shifted, twisting midair, striking with lethal timing. The rival yelped, forced back, claws digging into the soft earth. Aya's breath hitched. "Nei-san, he's so strong." Kenji pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Strength alone isn't enough. Watch the bond. Watch Kai, that's what keeps us alive." The rival paused, golden eyes flicking between Kenji and Kai, calculating, respect mingled with frustration. He lunged again, faster, more aggressive. Kai met him head-on, growl resonating, teeth flashing. Kenji's pulse synced with every movement, every beat of instinct and strategy. The mist swirled around them, hiding motion but amplifying tension. Every step, every strike, every subtle shift mattered. Kenji felt the rhythm, felt the energy flow between him and Kai, and knew they had reached a level of understanding the rival hadn't anticipated. A sudden feint from the rival created a small opening. Kenji whispered, almost silently, guiding Kai. "Now." The wolf lunged, claws digging, teeth flashing, precision unmatched. The rival yelped, forced back, retreating reluctantly into the mist, eyes burning with frustration and begrudging respect. Aya exhaled, trembling but steady. "Next-san, we did it." Kenji pressed a hand to her back, muscles still tense. "For now," he said softly. "We survived together." Kai circled them, golden eyes warm, tail brushing Kenji's hand, growl easing into a low hum of contentment. The forest seemed to exhale, mist dispersing slightly, shadows relaxing. The hunt had ended for now, but the lessons, the bond, the anticipation, they were stronger than ever. Kenji glanced at Aya. This wasn't just survival. We've learned, we've grown. The bond, it's unbreakable now. She pressed her small hand into his, gaze steady. Together, always. Kenji's lips curved faintly. Always. The mist swirled one last time around the plateau, shadows lingering, the forest alive with the memory of the fight. The storm beyond the trees would return, but this time they were ready, united, prepared, and unshakable. Kai padded beside them, golden eyes flicking to the horizon. The forest pulsed with quiet anticipation. And Kenji knew they would face whatever came next together. The forest was dense, shadows stretching long under the waning moon. Kenji's boots pressed into the damp soil, eyes scanning every movement. Aya clung to his side, small and tense, but her grip was steady, a quiet reassurance. The events of the past weeks had sharpened them both. Every narrow escape, every clash with rivals, every lesson learned had led to this night. Kai prowled ahead, fur bristling, golden eyes cutting through darkness, tail low and coiled, every muscle a taut line of controlled energy. "Do you feel it?" Aya whispered, voice barely audible. Kenji nodded. "It's coming, the final confrontation. Stay close, watch Kai, and trust your instincts. Everything we've learned, it all matters now." A faint rustle drew his attention, a shadow moving faster than the mist could mask. Kenji's pulse quickened. His grip tightened on Aya's shoulder. Kai's growl rumbled deep, low and steady, vibrating through the earth and into Kenji's chest. Every instinct screamed danger but opportunity. The rival wolf appeared, emerging from the mist, larger, more formidable than ever, eyes glinting with golden intensity. His presence radiated calculated menace, the culmination of patience and strategy. Kenji pressed Aya closer. "Remember anticipation. Trust Kai. Predict, don't react." The rival's voice, low and gravelly, cut through the mist. "You've grown, Kenji, but growth alone doesn't secure victory. Strength, strategy, and unity, these will decide who claims the plateau tonight." Kai's growl intensified. Kenji felt the wolf's readiness, a pulse of power beneath his hand. The bond between them throbbed in rhythm with his heartbeat, instinct, anticipation, cohesion. Aya's small hand pressed into his jacket, grounding him, reminding him of what they were protecting. Suddenly, the rival lunged, a blur of black, fangs flashing, claws scraping stone. Kai met him instantly, twisting midair, teeth clashing, claws digging, a symphony of precision and power. Kenji ducked, pulling Aya behind a boulder, muscles coiled, eyes scanning every detail, the rival's pattern, the wolf's rhythm, the subtle shifts in shadow and mist. "You've learned much," the teacher's voice echoed softly from the tree line. "But mastery requires more than skill. It demands trust, foresight, and unbreakable bonds. Use what you've built. Anticipate, communicate, act as one." Kenji exhaled sharply, muscles taut, pulse synchronized with Kai's. Every motion, every decision, every beat was aligned. The rival lunged again, faster, more aggressive. Kai met the strike head-on, growl resonating, fangs flashing. Kenji guided Aya carefully, teaching her silently through subtle signals. Watch, move, anticipate. A flash of insight hit him, an opening created by the rival's overconfidence. He leaned slightly, guiding Kai with a thought, a movement, a rhythm shared only between them. Kai twisted, striking with precision, teeth sinking, claws digging. The rival yelped, forced back, miscalculating for the first time. Aya's breath hitched. "Nai-san, we can." Kenji pressed a hand to her back. "Yes, together." The forest seemed to exhale around them. Mist swirled, shadows receded, anticipation held in fragile balance. Tonight, everything would be decided. The final confrontation had begun. The rival wolf circled, muscles rippling under black fur, eyes gleaming golden with sharp intelligence. Every step was deliberate, measured, each movement designed to probe weaknesses, test boundaries. Kai's tail lashed, ears flicking, growl low and steady, a living pulse of readiness beneath Kenji's hand. The forest itself seemed suspended, mist curling around rocks and branches, thick and suffocating, every sound amplified. The drip of dew, the snap of a twig, the hiss of a distant breeze. Kenji crouched, heart racing, muscles coiled, eyes scanning every subtle shift. Aya clung to his side, pale but determined, small hand pressed into his jacket. "Nai-san, I'm ready," she whispered, voice shaking but firm. "Good," Kenji replied, jaw tight. "Trust Kai, watch the rhythm, every move matters." The rival lunged suddenly, teeth flashing, claws scraping stone. Kai met him instantly, twisting, striking, growl reverberating through the plateau. Kenji moved Aya behind cover, analyzing every flicker of movement, every shift in weight, every subtle change in the rival's intent. This was no longer a test. They were shaping the outcome with every heartbeat. "You've learned to react," the teacher's voice echoed softly, partially wolfed form shifting among shadows. "But anticipation, cohesion, and understanding of your bond will define victory tonight. Predict the hunter's mind, not just his moves." Kenji felt the surge of instinct, the fusion of his own calculations with Kai's energy, a bond pulsing through muscle and sinew. Every lunge, every counter, every feint became a dance of precision. The rival's attacks grew more aggressive but predictable under the scrutiny of observation and trust. A sudden slip, a miscalculated strike from the rival, opened a narrow window. Kenji's pulse spiked. Now, he thought, guiding Kai subtly with a shared rhythm. The wolf twisted midair, striking with calculated precision, fangs sinking, claws digging. The rival yelped, forced back, eyes widening with surprise and frustration. Aya's breath hitched. "San, he's retreating." Kenji nodded slightly, muscles tense but controlled. "For now, but stay ready. Every moment counts until it's truly over." Kai's growl deepened, vibrating through Kenji's chest, tail brushing his arm, ears flicking to every shift in the mist. The rivals circled, golden eyes burning with recognition of their bond, of their cohesion, of the anticipation they now wielded as a weapon. Kenji's mind raced, scanning options, calculating outcomes, communicating silently with Kai. Each instinct, each movement, each decision threaded through their shared understanding, turning survival into strategy. The plateau had become a chessboard, every motion deliberate, every strike a piece in their unfolding plan. The rival lunged one final time, teeth flashing, claws striking. Kai met him head-on, twisting, striking, growl vibrating through the forest like thunder. Kenji pressed Aya to his side, heart hammering, breath sharp, every sense focused. The rival yelped, miscalculated, and stumbled back, golden eyes flicking to Kenji with begrudging respect. For the first time, hesitation replaced aggression. The hunter understood. They had mastered more than survival. They had mastered the bond. Aya exhaled sharply, trembling but steady. "San, we did it." Kenji pressed a hand to her shoulder, muscles still taut, gaze sweeping the misty plateau. "Yes, but stay vigilant. This is just the beginning of what we've learned. Strength, trust, anticipation, they carry us through." Kai circled them, tail high, growl softening, golden eyes flicking to the horizon. The forest seemed to breathe again, mist dispersing, tension easing. The rival had withdrawn, but the lessons, the bond, the readiness, they were unshakable. Kenji exhaled, fingers brushing Aya's hand. The final phase was approaching, and they were ready. The mist was thinning, morning light brushing the forest in pale silver streaks. The plateau was quiet, almost deceptively so, the echoes of the past nights of struggle lingering in the damp air. Kenji crouched, muscles still coiled, every sense alert, but the tension had shifted, from fear to control, from uncertainty to certainty. Aya pressed close, small hands gripping his jacket, gaze bright and steady, the quiet courage that had carried them through every trial shining through. Kai prowled in a tight circle, golden eyes sweeping the clearing, growl soft but alert. The bond between them thrummed in perfect harmony, a living pulse of trust, anticipation, and shared understanding. Every movement, every subtle shift, every glance exchanged had been refined through trials, mistakes, and victories. Tonight, the bond had been tested, and it had endured. The rival wolf emerged one final time from the lingering mist, larger, more formidable, eyes glinting with calculated intelligence. But there was no aggression this time, only acknowledgement. Golden eyes met golden eyes, respect and recognition threading silently through the tension. He circled slowly, measuring, then paused. "You've grown beyond what I expected," he murmured, voice low, gravelly. "Not just in strength, but in cohesion, in bond. You've earned this ground." Kenji exhaled, muscles relaxing slightly. "We survived together, not alone, not against each other," he said quietly, voice carrying both relief and quiet pride. Aya pressed her small hand into his side. "Always together," she whispered. Kai nudged Kenji's hand, growls softening into a gentle hum. The wolf's golden eyes flicked between Kenji and Aya, scanning the plateau one last time. The rival wolf gave a final, respectful snarl before retreating into the forest, shadows swallowing him, leaving only the memory of the clash. The forest exhaled with them. Sunlight pierced the remaining mist, brushing through leaves, illuminating moss and stone. The tension that had clung to the trees, to the ground, to their muscles, slowly dissipated. Kenji stood slowly, stretching limbs stiff with weeks of strain, eyes scanning the horizon for lingering threats, but there were none. Not today. Aya tilted her head, a small smile breaking through. "Nick-san, we did it. We really did it." Kenji smiled faintly, brushing damp hair from his forehead. "Yes, and we're stronger for it. Every challenge, every rival, it taught us not just survival, but unity, anticipation, trust." Kai padded up, tail brushing against their legs, golden eyes warm and steady. The wolf circled once, then rested beside them, the living heartbeat of their bond, calm now, but always ready. Kenji placed a hand on Kai's flank, feeling the steady pulse, and then another hand on Aya's shoulder. They had faced storms, rivals, fear, and uncertainty. They had endured, adapted, grown stronger, not just individually, but together. The plateau was theirs, but more than that, their bond, their courage, and their unity had become unshakable. A faint breeze whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of dew, earth, and distant flowers. Kenji inhaled deeply, letting it fill him, grounding him. This is just the beginning," he said softly. Aya nodded, eyes bright with quiet determination. "Together!" Kenji's lips curved in a small, firm smile. "Together!" Kai nudged them both, tail brushing lightly, golden eyes reflecting sunlight, guardianship complete. The forest, once heavy with tension, now felt alive with possibility. Shadows receded, mist lifted, and for the first time in weeks, Kenji, Aya, and Kai could breathe without the weight of imminent danger pressing down. The rival may return, storms may come, but they were ready. Unified, anticipatory, strong. And for the first time, Kenji let himself believe they would survive anything together.